Welcome everyone to our session on mobile communication apps and how they can best work for you. I'm Karina, the Executive Director of Bridging Voice. We are a nonprofit organization that helps ALS patients by providing a holistic support for all of their technology needs related to communication and computer access. It's a very specific mission that we have. The challenge that we are looking to address is the fact that not enough PALs get the technology they need, and even when they do get it, there's the issue of technology abandonment. They're either not able to use it or not able to fully utilize this technology. So our goal is to ensure that every ALS patient has access to the support that they need to communicate, period. And we do that through a variety of ways. We help from everything on education, helping clients learn what options are available to them, training on the technology, customizing the technology so that it works for you, and then providing ongoing technical support and innovation. So coming up with new solutions to make PALs' lives easier for communication. All of our services are provided free of charge, regardless of insurance status. It's also good to note for SLPs, we are not charging, so we're here to support you and help you. And all of our services are also provided remotely. So we work with PALs all across the country, I think in 48 states now. The last link I'm going to drop into, I'm getting all of the admin done now. The last link I'm going to drop into our chat is our referral partner list. If you're interested, the way that we work with PALs is our referral partners, which are clinics or nonprofits, refer PALs to us, and then we support them. If you're interested in becoming a referral partner, we currently have a wait list, but we're hoping to accept new referral partners in the near future. There's the link. You can sign up, and then we'll reach out to you as soon as we are accepting new referral partners. That takes care of that. And then the last thing that I just want to highlight for those of you who are new to Bridging Voice is a little bit about our philosophy, because I think that we're a little different than some other organizations and from the hospital system out there. Our philosophy is that PALs, people with ALS, should always be able to communicate. And we believe that it's the simple interventions that can really make a huge difference. And that's why we launched this training series, to share some of those insights so that we can have a bigger impact together. We also believe that outreach and follow-up is key. So we really work hard to stay in contact with all of the PALs and the families that we work with. We also believe that technology is a tool, not a solution. Technology is amazing, but it is only as good as it is implemented. And then lastly, we really believed in a personalized approach. So we customize so many of our solutions for the individual PALs because everyone is unique. So that is it from me. Introduces you to our organization and what we're doing. Today, we have a very exciting training specifically on communication apps. And you're going to be hearing from two of my colleagues, Deborah and Trinity. We'll be going into other topics in future trainings, but today we really get to dive deeper on communication apps for PALs. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Deborah.
Thank you, Karina. Hi, everyone. So as Karina said, today we're going to be talking about mobile communication apps. There are so many apps out there. How do you know which one to use? So to answer this question, we are going to go over feature matching, what to consider when choosing between all those different apps that are available. And then after we do that, we will take a deep dive into 3 apps so that you can become more familiar with them and all of their features. And we chose to review Predictable, Proloquo for text, and Speech Assistant. And we chose these 3 apps because they have many features that can be modified and helpful for folks with ALS. And actually, these are the 3 apps that we use the most. And so we don't only use these 3 apps, we use many others. And at the end of the session, we will share a longer list of apps that we consider for each of our clients. We will not be talking about dedicated communication devices today. And what is a communication app? You know, it's basically a mobile solution. It's a way someone can type into information into It's a way someone can type a selected phrase or information into their phone or tablet, and then that information gets converted to speech. We use apps for folks with ALS before they use a larger dedicated communication device. So the mobile apps are great to start with because they're being used on familiar technology. They're really easy to get. They're low cost, typically low cost and they're easy to use. Some of my patients use a communication app just to clarify a message, and some of them may use apps for all of their communication. For example, yesterday I met a woman who had a significant dysarthria, and her husband understands about 90% of what she says. So when she's at home, she'll speak first, and then when he doesn't understand her, she'll use her app to clarify, what he didn't understand, to clarify that part of the message. But when friends come over, they really can't understand her at all. So she knows just to go and start using the communication app on her technology for all of her communication. And so when she starts to have some changes in her arms and hands, that's when we will suggest, moving on towards getting a larger eye tracking communication device. I get questioned all the time by people, when do I use the apps? Why not go to a bigger communication device right away? And I always say, if you have a smartphone or a tablet that you can still use physically and you can still physically access, just download the communication app and start with that. I'm going to admit this person. Okay. Start with that. So we encourage folks to use their own technology for as long as possible until they can no longer access the phone or tablet. And along the way that we're doing this with folks, we also recommend various methods to access the apps and the tablets and the phones, but we're not going to review that today in this presentation. Okay. So finding the best app that suits one's needs can be really challenging. Oftentimes people choose an app and I meet them and I say, how did you choose this app? And they'll say things like, my cousin's best friend knew someone with ALS, and that's what they're using. Or I Googled and found a free and easy app to use. So after today, we hope after we review all these features that you'll have a better way to choose an app. So these are the features that we typically go through with folks. So I'm going to go through them now. So when you're looking at an app and considering it, you want to think about voice and message banking. Does the app allow you to download a banked voice? Which one? Does it allow you to support message banking or download your banked messages? Many of my clients with ALS are taking the time to bank their voice. Why not use it in the mobile app? You don't really have to wait until you get an eye tracking speech device to download that banked voice. And many apps don't support the banked voices. Access. Access is the way one enters text into the app. The access method can be modified to make it easier to use if someone's having physical changes. And there are different ways to access an app. So I'm going to review those ways. They're not listed here, but I'll review all of them. So direct selection is what we all use to control our phones. It's basically accessing a target by directly pointing to a letter or a phrase or a symbol with a finger or an adapted tool like a stylus. Another way that people access their apps and technology is with head tracking. This is by, you move your head to control a pointer on the screen, and you can also use facial expressions along with that to perform actions. And you can use head tracking with the camera on the Apple Pro camera, or you can plug in, there's a series of external head trackers that you can plug into the technology like a Glass House or a Q Horizona, and there are others. Another access method that people think about or we look at for folks accessing the apps is scanning. So scanning is an access method if you can't use your hands to direct select, or if you have a weak neck muscle and can't make the head tracking is difficult, then you can use scanning. And basically, scanning requires you to activate a switch that controls a cursor that moves from one target to the next in a variety of patterns. You can either use an external switch or touch the display to control the scan. Another way of accessing the technology is some of the cameras now on the phones and tablets allow you to do, they detect facial gestures, and you can assign various gestures like raising your eyebrows or sticking out your tongue to navigate a phone, speak a specific message or to carry out a task. And last but not least, as an access method is eye tracking. Eye tracking is a technology where a person uses eye movements to select letters on the screen. Eye tracking is not really ready yet, reliable yet on phones and tablets for apps, but it is a very accurate method to control a Windows-based communication device, as we all know. And there are many apps that are claiming that eye tracking is reliable, but I haven't found one yet. Maybe someone else can share with us at the end of the session, but hopefully this will change in the near future. So another feature to consider is cost. Some apps are free. Some apps have a one-time fee of a couple of dollars up to maybe $400, and some apps have a monthly charge. A big thing to think about, and when you're thinking about features of the mobile app, is modifications. Modifications is a really important feature. Can the app be modified? And if so, how easy is it to modify? And there's a lot of things that can be modified in some of these apps, which you'll see when we review them in a little bit. And they can include things like changing the keyboard, changing features of the keyboard and layouts, changing text size and font and color backgrounds, setting up word predictions, changing the number of word predictions, having the ability to organize and program novel phrases into the app. This is really important so that one can personalize this for quick and meaningful conversations that make it easier for folks to communicate. Can you use icons to represent words and phrases in the app? Can the app be used in portrait and landscape mode? This is an interesting one. I recently set someone up, and you don't really think about this feature, but I'll give you an example. I saw someone recently, and we got an app for his tablet. No problem. He went to use it on his phone, and he realized the app was only being used in portrait mode, and he really couldn't use it on the phone in portrait mode. He needed to have it in landscape mode. So a simple feature like that made us kind of move into a different app. We had to switch apps because of not realizing that ahead of time. Another feature to think about is platform. Is the app going to be working on your present technology, Android or iOS? And something that we're thinking about more often is the app carrying over into Windows, into a future speech generating device. So for folks that are having some difficulty learning new things or have some FTD, frontal temporal dementia, it's best to select an app that can then be downloaded into a Windows-based communication device so that one wouldn't have to learn a second program. Okay, language and speech is another feature we think about. So if you're not going to use your banked voice in the app, does the app have lots of different voices to choose from? There are apps that have maybe one or two, and then there are apps that can have a lot of voices to choose from, and there are even apps that can equate an accent with the voice, sync the accent with the voice, which really makes it a little bit more interesting to present oneself with. And can you then, with those voices, modify the rate of the speech to make it more understandable? Language is important. I don't know if we always investigate this enough for folks. So what languages are available to speak in, and can you speak in multiple languages? So we have so many clients that need to speak multiple languages, or first different languages and then multiple languages. And sometimes you don't even ask the question, who else do you need to communicate with? So we have a lot of clients that may speak English, but then they may call a family member, let's say in Norway, and need to speak another language. So it's important to think about this one, thinking about choosing an app for an individual. Another feature we think about is ease of programming. How easy is it to make all those modifications I talked about? How easy is it to program and change phrases? And something else that the apps are, some of the more inclusive communication apps are offering is more support. Can you call up somebody or email someone to get answers to your questions? Is there support available? But don't forget that Bridging Voice is here also to help support. And then there's a new feature on some of the apps with some of the technology, phone call support. It's a cool new feature. Can you use the app to make a phone conversation or a video call? And that's when your communication partner will hear the speech output on the other end. So you have to, kind of find out what's important for the individual, and then look at the different apps to see, what will meet all of their needs. So these are all the features we consider when selecting an app for someone. As I said, it's important to think about all these features. And then once you do that and you have a more of a relationship with an individual, knowing all their needs, you can pick out the features most important and match it to the app. And this will help you sort through all the apps, hopefully, and select one that will work best. So as I mentioned, the 3 apps that we're going to review today are Predictable, Proloquo for Text, and Speech Assistant. And with each app, we will review all those features I just went over. So I'm going to start with Predictable. So I'm curious now, how many of you out there have used Predictable or are familiar with it? If you are or have, can you just type in the chat window to give us an idea of what your knowledge base is? Great. Wow, a lot of people. Nice. Okay. Okay, so Predictable. If the folks that have used it know this is a big app with tons and tons of features, right? So to review this app would take me probably over an hour, maybe if I'm talking a Bronx voice, maybe an hour. But if I'm talking in the New Orleans kind of voice, it may take me 3 hours. But so I listed, I'm sorry, guys, couldn't resist. I listed a link here that you can look at, and there's an hour video of someone reviewing the app in detail. And there's also if you Google it online, there's lots of little videos related to all the different features for Predictable that you can find online. So you can see the cost for both the Android and the Apple is about $160, $180. There's lots of different ways to access this app. We're going to go into it in a little bit more detail. Direct selection, scanning, head tracking gestures. There's a little mistake here. It says eye tracking. It should say future eye tracking. That you can make phone calls with it. There are lots of languages that you can see, you can use, and it does support voice and message banking that you can download your voices. Okay, so let's dive deeper into this app. So here it is. This is how it looks. Here's the keyboard in both a portrait mode and landscape mode. And you can see the first arrow is pointing to a little gear. This is how you get to the settings. It's easy to find and easy. Actually, it's easy to make changes. They offer lots of suggestions in the settings that you can make your changes. If you look at the top of the keyboard, you'll see at the top left is the history strip. This has a dynamic content so that as you type a message and speak it, those messages get populated there. And in those orange ones on the top right are messages from the favorite category. So you can have those on or off. You can have one on or one off. It's very modifiable. And also, if you can't swipe through them, you can set up buttons, right? Buttons that you can go to the next message. So the next arrow on the bottom is pointing to 3 little lines. That is showing you where you can get to the categories and phrases. You can see your categories and phrases either in a grid layout or a list layout, and they're really easy to modify and change the order of. On top of the letters, you'll see a blue line with words. That is the word prediction. And this helps word prediction helps one to quickly and accurately construct sentences. And the predictions in Predictable can be displayed through either a bubble or a static strip. This is what you see there right now. And you can have either both ways of word prediction being shown, or one or the other, or no, you can turn off the word prediction totally if you want to. So that's how it looks. Can you go to the next slide, please? So next we're going to talk about accessibility in Predictable. There's lots of ways to access this app. So we talked about accessibility, and I'm going to just talk about it a little bit here in this related to Predictable. So you can use direct selection, which again is touching directly, and there's some modifications for time and force, which would prevent mishits and accommodate to tremors and other motor difficulties. You can use scanning with an external switch, 1 or 2 switches, which is they plug into a Bluetooth switch box to enable the switches to work with the device, or you can tap the screen to control the scanning with this device with scanning. You can use head tracking with the device camera on a newer Apple device, or plug in an external head tracker. You can do scan and track with face gestures to select. Actually, face gestures are also compatible with scanning methods. You can scan the items with the switch and then select with something like blink or puffing out your cheeks or something like that. You can do that with the head tracking too. You move your head and then select sticking out your tongue to select, right? So, one really cool feature is gesture speech. I'm going to throw this in here. And that's when I really like this feature, when you can create a phrase to be spoken with a facial gesture or a series of gestures. Like, for example, you can set up that every time someone raises their eyebrows and smiles, you hear a message that says, "Thank you, you're the best." Or you can set up that the call bell goes off every time someone sticks out their tongue. So this is really powerful and gives a lot of capability to someone using this app. So as I said before, eye tracking is coming. Oops, go back. I'm not done yet. Yep, eye tracking is coming in the future I saw it being used with the iRespond Hero camera. I don't really have any clue, where they are with that, and what the status is. But when I saw it, the camera was, I saw it with a special person in New Orleans using it, and the camera was just being able to control the app, but not, out of the app, not onto the Apple desktop. Just want to mention floor hold, because this is really another powerful, really useful thing, capability for Predictable. Basically, it's Predictable can automatically speak a prepared sentence while you're typing a message. So it lets people know they're speaking and interrupting you. So basically what it means is that you can be typing a message, someone starts to talk over you or change the topic of conversation, and without you modifying your message, you can hit a key and it will say something like, "I'm not done talking yet. Please be patient. I have a lot more to say, and please, stop talking." However nice or you want to say those messages, it can cycle through a series of them. It's really powerful. It's really a nice feature of the device, of the app. Okay, let's look at the next slide, please. So speech, there's lots of ways. So there's lots of default voices here, voices that come within the app, and you can select the voice, and this is the app that you can also assign an accent with the voice. You can also modify the rate and pitch of the voice, and if you don't see a voice in the app, you can go to the system of the device and download voices into the system of the device, and then they will show up in the app. And you can also download Acapella and Model Talker, which is a great feature to be able to use those banked voices that you've worked so hard to create. Okay. I'm going to actually, okay, this is another useful feature of Predictable. They call it the show feature, but most other people call it the partner feature. So let's say you're using the app and you don't want to speak your message in a group of people, you can set up the keyboard to have this little show button. You touch the show button, it flips the message that your person that you want to send a private message to can read it instead of speaking it. So it gives you the option of sending it by text, or besides sending it by text and speaking it, you can flip it that someone can read it automatically. Okay, the next slide, please. Okay, the Predictable keyboard. Predictable comes with 5 keyboard options that you can choose from, which is really nice. It offers and it also offers the possibility of plugging in an external keyboard and using third-party keyboards. And you would choose your keyboard layout here, and they have the QWERTY and the ABC layout and some high frequency layouts. They have a 2-step larger keyboard, and they use the system keyboard. A lot of people like to continue using the system keyboard because you can continue to use swiping with that. And the system keyboard is really the native keyboard to whichever device you're using. Keyboards are further modified in the themes and appearances section of their settings. So let's look at that. Lots of stuff here. So Predictable has 17 pre-built themes and templates, which have both visual and setting customization. So you can really go to town and do lots of customizing here. You can customize the templates, including the layout and the color. You can modify the keyboards. You can include icons. You can modify the font and the text. You can set it up so that when you turn it on, the home screen will either go to the keyboard or will go all to your grid of phrases and categories. So there's lots of stuff you can do. So, but why bother with all these modifications? Well, everyone is different. Everyone has different visual abilities, different ways they attend to things, different motor abilities. A simple change to a larger keyboard or a color combination for enhanced vision can really make a difference for someone to really be able to use this app or any app. I think I covered everything here. Can you, this is a feature I'm not done with the features yet, actually. There are more. No, go back. Yep. Sorry. I really like this feature. You can make further customizations to the keyboard to include a lot of different feature keys, and you can see the list here. So you can see the red line on the top of the key, the red square on the top of the keyboard, and below you can change all those keys. There's 5 on the top and 3 on the bottom that could be modified, and you can put all that list on the long list. You can put any of those in there. You can put in your speak or a call bell, an alert bell, or share to social media, or a settings, or your phrase bank, or a tool to do handwriting, or your floor hold, or your multi-language key, or to make a phone call. So it's really cool. And once someone starts using the app and see how you're using it, then you can really hone in and change the keyboard to really meet all your needs. I think it's a really powerful part of this program. Okay, next slide. Grid modification. So you can, this is how the phrases are shown, and you can customize the grid layout. And for access, you can, if someone needs bigger buttons, you can have bigger buttons, or you can change the visual design. So you can have it in a list or a grid, and then change the amounts that are shown to accommodate to vision and touch. Just a nice feature, and it's easy to modify. Next slide, please. So language. Predictable supports all these languages that you see. And what's really nice is that it supports a secondary language and allows you to go back and forth between both languages. When you do that, though, there are some limitations to the word prediction and the phrases. So I think only the primary language has the word prediction and the phrases, but it does allow someone to stay in the app and use multiple languages, which is really kind of cool. I have a number of people doing that. Can I see the next slide? I mentioned this when I was talking earlier, phone calls. So what does this do? You can use this feature with FaceTime or during a call, a telephone call, and your communication partner will hear the speech output directly on the other end of the phone, or a phone call or video call. And it's really a nice tool. It's really a tool, I think, mainly with iPhone, but maybe someone can correct me about that. And the only thing to know is that you can't, the contacts don't populate into the app automatically, that you do have to manually enter the contacts you want to use this feature with. It doesn't recognize the contacts unless you do that. Okay, next slide. Okay, I think we're coming to the end of the predictable modifications and all the things you can do. So as I said, phrase and category modifications are really powerful and needed. It's really, so the phrase, and I have to start with the phrase, and the phrases and categories are not modified within the settings. You do them right, it's very easy. You do them right in the section where they're located. And adding phrases and topics that are meaningful are really important to make an app successful for someone. Either putting in basic phrases that you can just call out for help, or a page of jokes or political comments and sayings to break the ice, or a page of conversational interjections to help you keep the conversation flowing. It's really important, and predictable enables you to do it really easily, to put them in and modify it and change the order, and it's really easy for the user to do, as well as the speech pathologist. So, I went quickly through predictable, and it may look overwhelming, but it really is a full, complete app with lots of the features that we talked about that are important when considering an app. And I encourage you to take a look at it and see if it would meet the needs of your clients. So now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Trinity Dibert. She is a speech language pathologist that works with Bridging Voice and is an augmentative communication specialist, and she's going to review the next two apps.
All right, here we go. So first of all, let me acknowledge that Predictable is a really big program, but even just making simple changes, such as adjusting the text font size and button size, can make a big impact. The next two apps that I'm going to show you have many less customizations, but they're still really useful. You're going to hear a lot of the same language that you previously heard Deborah speak about. I would love to know how many of you recommend Proloquo Text. Drop it in the chat and let us know. If you do use it, feel free to share with us later any of your special tricks or tips that you may have. Do you guys use Proloquo? Brad said yes. Okay. All right, so let's look at Proloquo for Text. We have included here a link for you. Again, this is available on Apple. We have touch and access options. It as well offers in-call support, so you can use this with telephone calls. Again, lots of languages, and voice banking is supported using Acapella. All right, let's look at our next slide. So as we talked about before, this is Proloquo for Text in both portrait and landscape mode here. So one of the interesting things about this is you're going to see that the back of this app, the background on this app is black. And this actually happened to me automatically while I was pulling these pictures late at night, getting ready for this. My app automatically color adjusted to the nighttime. But one of the things I want to share with you is that many of our pals report their bright lights, such as a bright white background, bothers their eyes. And I often find that they'll ask me for bigger text and bigger text and bigger text. And truly what they need is that change in contrast. So when Deborah was previously talking about those themes and low vision, you're going to see that a lot of those are beneficial for many pals. And to be honest with you, I missed this when I was new as a new clinician, that this is one of the things that can really impact and make changes for people. This is also going to look different on a phone as it is on an iPad. The arrows that you see here are pointed to, again, another gear. This gear symbol seems to be pretty consistent across multiple apps, which is what allows you to access the settings. All right, next slide. Our next slide again here is our partner viewing. And as Deborah showed you, this is really handy, especially when you want to share a message that you don't want to speak aloud, such as when you're at a table and you need to use the restroom and you don't want to say it out loud. Or if you happen to be with your family and you have something snarky you want to say and you don't want everybody to hear it, this is a great way to do it. You could just show someone what it is, be able to rotate and have a nice big font for them to look at. The little arrow at the bottom, just to bring your attention, is actually showing you the rotation, and it's tiny even when you're looking at it. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that is the rotation location. Next slide. All right. So this here just shows you, as you can see, in comparison to Predictable, the options for general modifications are smaller, but still very robust here with Proloquo for Text. All right, next slide, please. The first thing that we're going to look at is theme and appearance. And again, you heard the same topic when Deborah was talking about it. So this allows you to customize your font, your icons, your general theme, your background color, which we just talked about how impactful that can be, especially for visual access, and your quick blocks by scrolling down in the menu. I want to make sure that you guys realize on most of these apps, including Predictable, Proloquo for Text, and Speech Assistant, that most of these settings menus have a scrolling method to them where there's a lot more functions than what we're even showing you here today. All right, next slide. All right, so let's look at icons and text. Okay, so we were talking about quick blocks. We've got access features from your main screen here. And these again were those quick blocks, those kind of quick areas that Deborah showed you previously. We've got, you can set those in terms of being able to turn them on and off for things such like conversations and histories and phrase. You can also adjust your word prediction to increase your typing speed and significantly reduce your fatigue. And the important aspect for using your prediction is being able to stay quickly involved in a conversation. All right. So word prediction is located above your keyboard. And again, I can't say enough about the modifications with this. They're very helpful for reducing the number of letters that you need to type and keeping you involved on the conversation. I think one of the hardest things for PALs as they're starting to use assisted technology is feeling like they get behind in the conversation and someone's already carried on to a new topic and you're still trying to catch up. Next. So let's talk about speech. So language and speech modifications allow you to select your language, but here's an important thing that I need you to know about this. If you're using another language other than English, you need to download the Apple keyboard in your selected language and then choose your language in this location. You won't have access to other voices in other languages until you download the keyboard first from the Apple setting. And this was something that, again, is really important to know, especially as you're helping somebody get this set up in another language. Also using under the managed language section, changing it to automatic is a really great quick tip. It'll help you pull those speech options up as soon as you import that keyboard. All right, so that is Prolo Quo. And again, I wish we had the chance to sit down and explain all of the different aspects to this. And your head may be swimming, but please remember that you have access, you're going to have access to these slides as well as to this presentation. And we've included links in each of the apps on how-to videos. A quick search on YouTube will give you many videos to act as references for each little thing that you may want to look at. Okay, so on to our last app we'll be featuring today is Speech Assistant. As before, I'd love to know in the chat how many of you are using or frequently recommend Speech Assistant. Amanda just shared, I love Speech Assistant. Yeah, a lot. Audrey just said it very often. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Okay, so platform, Apple and Android, we've got some costs there. Again, touch and switch. Again, it also offers support in a telephone call as well as in Facebook, has languages. It does have message banking within the app as recordings on files for your phrase buttons, okay? So we'll talk about that here in just a minute. All right, let's check out our views. So here is our portrait and landscape view. Again, I happen to pull these from my iPad. And again, you can see that gear symbol that we have been talking about. That's the consistent feature across all of them, which just allows you to have access to your settings location. All right, let's see our next slide. And again, here we are again with our partner view. And the arrow down below again is showing you your screen location as well. All right, let's look at our settings. So through that gear icon, you're going to see here is your settings menu that we have been seeing kind of consistently. All right, access. So some things I really want to share about this is under the general settings, you're able to make modifications to multiple features, including touch access, such as long press duration. And these access options can be so handy when a PAL is losing their ability to point, and they may drag their fingers across the screen and select buttons that they don't intend to. Again, this really can make or break the difference. So for example, moving to a stylus or being concerned about these bottom fingers dragging across other buttons as they're trying to type. So these minor changes can make such a difference in terms of somebody being able to stay in a comfortable communication setting using an app on a phone. versus moving on to a more higher tech access method, which can be pretty anxiety provoking and overwhelming in many cases. All right, so layout, text, size, and font. Layouts and colors give you the meat of customizing how your application looks with modifying abilities, including button height, font, and color scheme. And as you recall, I shared earlier that the change of color in the background really can improve PAL's ability to actually see the screen. And like I said before, I missed this early on, and I wish I would have known then what I know now about that. Let's go to the next slide. So phrase organization. Okay, this is a big area. So in the menu on your main screen, I want to bring your attention that the menu here scrolls. Many of my pals have missed this feature, realizing that the section scrolls. They think just the number of buttons they see is it, and they're static. And at the bottom of this menu, you're going to find a button for reordering your phrases. And you can see that there with the arrow, the horizontal arrow. And it's important to know that you can't possibly know all of the important phrases you're going to need throughout your journey. When you get a new phrase, move it to the front. And if you have a phrase that you're no longer moving, move it to the back. It's really, really beneficial to ensuring that you have the stuff that means the most today, right, available. Okay. All right, category and phrases. Category and phrases can be programmed within the settings, or as I previously showed you on the main screen. And like I said, PAL's experienced so much change. What you need today is not what you're going to need tomorrow. So make sure that your communication phrases are customized to you and for you, and make sure that they're relevant for today. Have quick access to them. All right. So keyboard changes. There's only 2 options for keyboards within this app. You can use the Apple keyboard, or you can customize your own keyboard. And you would customize your keyboard here through this section. All right, and let's look at symbols and messages. And it's a little hard to tell, but there in the picture, you're going to see a picture actually of my new puppy, Ruby. So picture and sound files can act like a bank message and can be added to your phrase button and phrase editing. I know it's hard to see, but on this button, I've included a picture of my dog, Ruby, as the phrase states, "Please let Ruby in." I can let the computer speak for me, or if I still have my voice, I can actually record my voice saying, "Please let Ruby in." I've been fortunate to meet many dogs of PALs who follow commands from their owners' communication devices. And of course, including treats always help in that learning process. But pictures separate from that, I want to bring forward that sometimes we don't always think about this, but pictures and symbols on a phrase can be very beneficial for PALs who may be having cognitive changes, such as those with frontal temporal dementia, or our PALs who do not have strong literacy skills. It also really helps visually if someone has a lot of phrases that they kind of want access to all within the same screen. It's nice to have a picture because it allows them just to quickly grab what they want by using even just a symbol or a picture. All right, next slide. So speech and voice modifications, including pitch and rate, are really beneficial. And again, here you can adjust those in the speech and sound. Reducing the rate of speech can greatly help your communication partner understand what is being said from the computer, the speech output from the computer, and especially if your communication partner is hard of hearing. Sometimes decreasing the speech rate, so there's longer pauses in between the words, can make way more improvement in your partner understanding than just cranking up the volume, which in some cases can cause some distortion due to just the volume sound. All right. So takeaways. So speech pathologists and support staff, I can't say enough. Please consider taking a deeper dive into each of these apps, reviewing all of their features and modifications. And to all the PALs out there, a founding pillar of Bridging Voice is that we believe that you should always be able to communicate. App customizations may allow you to use your communication app more efficiently. as well as longer. And if you need assistance, reach out to your local speech pathologist, local support group, or even your chapter. And if any of you ever have questions in the future, please feel free to email us, and we put our email address down below. Okay. And lastly, we want to share one little thing for you. All right, perfect. Okay, so let's look at our, this is our communication apps guide. But first off, I need to say this in big, bold letters. I can't stress enough how quickly this information changes. Daily, this information was changing as we were trying to put all of this together. And we finally had to say, okay, no more changes. It just has to be the way that it has to be. But there are many amazing resources online which share very similar app charts. This list is the most common apps that we consider when a PAL needs an app. Using these features listed in the table, including what platform they're using, Apple, Android, or Windows, the cost, whether they have a banked voice or messages that they want to use, how they're going to interact with the app, helps us to narrow down where to even start for trials and demonstrations. And you're all going to receive this list in a handout following our session. I hope this list, as well as the information that we have shared with you here today, can serve as a starting point to help you decide what app is most appropriate for you or your PALs.
Great, thank you, Trinity. So it was a lot of information, and we already have some great questions rolling in. So I want us to dive right into the Q&A and discussions. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We have about 10 minutes officially, but I think Trinity and Deborah would probably be happy to stay a little bit after to get through as many of these questions as possible. So I'll start with the question that Jake dropped in here earlier on, asking about Predictable. If it was comparable in the Android and the iOS version, he said that sometimes he finds apps are built for one and then it's better in one version than the other. Does anyone have any insight into the comparability of Predictable in Android versus iOS?
So I haven't used Predictable. I'm going to be honest, I haven't used it recently on an Android. I think that the basic keyboards and themes are synonymous with both. One thing that is not synonymous is that the head tracking feature and the ability to use gestures and obviously FaceTime you can't do on the Android feature. And I'm not sure if you can. I know you can download Model Acapella. I think you can download Model Talker, but I'm not 100% sure. So I don't know. Is anyone on the call that has used it on an Android product?
Yeah,
recently?
great question. Anyone used Predictable on an Android that's on the call recently? I'm not seeing
Okay.
anyone.
Apple.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, wait, do we have? Audrey said that she thinks Predictable is iOS only, but that's not the case, right, Deborah?
No, it's not the case. It's in both Android and Apple.
Yeah, that's a great feature.
Yeah, we did do our best diligence, of course, on these, but like it was hard for us to even, find information on some of these. So that's why we just don't quite have as much to be able to answer.
No, I mean,
Audrey actually had another question here regarding Speech Assist. She asked, is the message banking a recording voice feature only available on the upgraded version, or is it available somewhere on the free one? Does anyone have insight? And again, there's so many apps out there, and as everyone said, everything is changing so quickly. So I think that's great for us all to sort of share insight. I don't know if Trinity or Deborah, you have insight into that one?
Yeah, so when I'm referring to the message banking on the Speech Assist, I'm referring more to the fact that you can record onto the button. And I do have to admit that the version that I am using is the paid version when I'm recording. I have not tried to do it on a free version, so I'd love to know if anybody else has tried. But I'm just attaching the text or a voice file to the actual button, as well as adding the picture.
Great. Oh, great. So we had a question from Catherine. If you guys could go into a little more detail about the ability to use these apps with phone calls.
do you want to take that one?
Go ahead. Nope, you can
Okay,
take it.
so with an Apple phone, you can with Predictable and with I think a Speech Assistant, and Proloquo for text as well. You can put it into a mode where you can receive the call, and then you can open up the app, and as you're typing your message and sending it, the message will come through the person's, the person will hear it through the phone.
Great. So Catherine,
So
I
all
hope
three of
that,
them have that.
yeah. Catherine says, dang, the future is now. It's true. It's kind of an amazing time with all of this technology getting better and better. Also, Audrey, thank you. Audrey dropped a helpful link into the chat about Predictable on Android that probably has more detail on that one. And then Catherine just asked, Deborah, do you know if that's only with an iPhone that you're able to do that, or can you do that on Android?
So I'm going to put that out to the community at large
Great.
here. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and Jake actually already offered that he's going to do a little digging on Android and report back, which would be amazing. So Jake, if you want to email that to us, and I'm going to share our email again here. So if anyone has follow-up questions or things they'd like to share, we'll share that in the follow-up email after this call. Okay, we also had a question. Great, sorry, scrolling, lots of great questions here. We had a question about what the biggest factor is, why someone would pay $180 for an app versus getting a free one. So that's a really great question. There's a sort of a lot of price difference that you guys saw.
So I'm going to jump in and then you can finish, Trinity. So for me, the biggest thing is one, that you can download your banked voice if you've created a banked voice. To use that banked voice, you spend so much time creating. And two is, as I said, when we went through all of the features, the person's needs, looking at physical abilities, visual abilities, and how what someone needs in order to access that app. So there's a lot to think about. But for me, the biggest thing is the voice, using the banked voice.
And I think kind of a second follow-up to that was, I saw earlier that somebody had asked about, like, do we have a guide that we use for helping us make decisions about which app that we choose? And to be honest with you, the guide really is that list that Deborah showed about our features. Like, that's kind of what we run through in terms of helping us kind of decision tree making down. For example, if you have your acapella voice and you really want to use it, what does that look like? Or if you have a speak unique voice, what does that look? And again, of course, platform is another big one. And also the discussion earlier that we had about, is this an app? Do we want an app now that's going to roll into a speech generating device if we're concerned about them learning something new? Or are they using it on multiple devices? Those are things that we use. And again, so that list, although it's just in bullet format, is absolutely imperative for us for helping making, decision making.
Great. We also had a question from Audrey here about a Bluetooth speaker. Whether it was helpful to use a Bluetooth speaker when using text-to-speech on apps for smartphones, and is there a wearable Bluetooth speaker that anyone would recommend? I'm seeing a lot of head shaking.
Yeah, go ahead, Deborah.
No, yes, I actually, we didn't bring that up, but I always recommend folks to have a Bluetooth speaker in their home to just make the voice louder if they want to have Alexa, hear the output. And also there is a wearable one, I think it's called the, keep on forgetting the Knox 32, NOX 32, I think that's the name of it, that I recommend for folks to wear. And it's really a really a good speaker. Yep.
Great. And then we had a question.
I'll get that and I'll put it in the chat for you.
Great. And then we had a question from Greg and Allison about tips for using devices outdoors. I know we get this question a lot.
Yeah. And again, this question, is kind of loaded in a lot of different directions, but I'm going to take the easy path through this. And if you want something further, please let us know. But when we were previously talking about having those theme changes, where you can adjust the backgrounds colors, and this is one of those areas that, something as simple as flipping a background color can make such a difference in terms of the visibility, outside. I think about it like when we're, just even, our phones will autocorrect, for the sunlight, and, your Kindle that you read outside, you can have a black on white, or you can have a white on black. So being able to kind of toggle those themes, if you are using it outside, is really helpful. You also can use, anti-glare screen coatings that you can put on a lot of tablets and your phones as well to help with that visual access.
Great. We are, and Deborah just dropped some of those links into the chat. And Francois, thank you for sharing all this information as well. I think our technical director, Nahum, is excited to connect with you. So please shoot us an email and we'll continue the conversation. And then I think we'll take one last question just to be respectful of everyone's time here. Audrey asked about finger dragging. Do you ever recommend cutting or ordering a custom key guard for an iPad? Obviously better to go with an insurance funded device at this point, but obviously people have funding barriers at times. Always looking for low cost custom guards, so recommendations are welcome.
I
and
haven't personally used a key guard for someone with ALS using a device in a while. It's a good point. They're very useful. So I don't have any recommendations for ones that are low cost. I look at other alternative access methods, and then if their hands are becoming that challenging to access, I move on to another access method or start to look at eye tracking.
Yeah, we have some other SLPs on the call on the call right now. So if any of you have suggestions for good low cost options, please drop them in the chat.
And one of our coming up sessions that we're doing, that we hope you guys will all join, is looking at those alternative access options.
Right.
So when you get to that point, Eddie Ehrlich is going to be sharing, quite a few tips about access options and methods coming up. So I think that might be a great one for you to consider.
Great. Yes. And that actually leads me into our wrap up. So thank you everyone for joining today. If you have follow-up questions, please feel free to email us at info@bridgingvoice.org. And as Trinity mentioned, we will be having future trainings diving deep on other topics such as alternative access methods, manual communication options, as well as speech generating devices and some of the customizations that we do for those. So there's a lot on the horizon. If you haven't already, please sign up to be updated on our training series. And I'm going to put all of these links. Oh, wait, no, that's the wrong one. That's our referral partner if you're interested in being a referral partner. But if you have any questions, please email us. And we will be following up after this training with the video from this training, as well as information on future trainings. So thank you all. I know an hour of your time is very valuable. So thank you guys so much. Thank you for the wonderful questions. And thank you to Trinity and Deborah for a wonderful presentation. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Bye.